Hello, once again, here we are, Serving the Valley, the program Serving the Valley. I look at it as an opportunity to taste the kind of services that are available in abundance. How lucky we are here in the Cedar Valley. And how fortunate I was to discover this. Well, I'll get to it in a minute. Roy Justice here, your tour guide for the next several minutes. This journey today, I saw some initials on a sheet of nonprofit organizations here in the Cedar Valley, and it was CASA. And then there was nothing after that. I thought, uh-oh. So I went to my favorite, well, you know what our favorite place is to look for stuff like that, court-appointed special advocates. Wow, sounded pretty serious to me. The folks who work with children who end up in the legal system. Now that's about as far as I can go. So it's another edition of Educate Roy. And to help with that, Margaret Meg Campbell has joined us. She is the coordinator, the official title, I think. And Ellen Vanderloo has joined us as well, and we'll get both of their stories as we trip our way along on this. I can call you Meg, right?
Yes, please.
I know you go by another title, but you said that's your grandmother?
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Meg has joined us to, first of all, we're going to talk some pretty serious situations here. The welfare of kids, the safety of kids, and actually the legal rights of parents in this whole situation. Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Obviously, the needed service in some critical times in the lives of both of these parents and kids and everyone involved. So let's start with this. How do kids end up in the court system?
So someone makes a call to the Department of Human Services. They go out and investigate what's happening and determine if if the children in that situation may need to be removed because of whatever is going on. Serious going on. And so they make a request to the juvenile court judge, who then makes a decision, and children may or may not then be removed. In our case, obviously they've been removed from the home. Then they go through a quick court hearing that's relatively soon to determine if that was really the appropriate action. If so, they remain removed and they may be adjudicated as a child in need of assistance. So the acronym for that is CINA. We say China because it's a child in need of assistance.
Okay.
Once a child has been adjudicated or determined to be a child in need of assistance, that's where the CASA program can come in, or usually comes in. Children who are living outside their home could be with a relative, could be with a licensed foster care provider. They are eligible to have a CASA advocate, a court-appointed special advocate appointed to represent their best interests in the case. CASA advocates are volunteers. We are appointed by the juvenile court judge in a case. The judge makes the decision as to whether or not a CASA is appropriate in any given case. And so anyone in the case can request that a CASA be appointed. So it could be parents or foster parents or relatives or the DHS caseworker or the guardian ad litem or the judge, him or herself, could just decide to write the order for a CASA. And then it comes to me and I call Ellen or one of my other 33 volunteers and ask if they would be willing to take the case.
Stated very well. If it had to be in a graphic form, I'm leading and he knows where I'm leading, there is a mission statement.
Yes.
And it goes something like
Yes.
magic.
Absolutely. We commission and train community volunteers to advocate for children who end up in the child welfare system and in juvenile court as a result of something their parents have done, not anything they have done.
Before we get too far into this, I'm always curious as to what it was in your life that pulled you toward this kind of service.
Well, I am...
Ellen, you're next.
Ready.
Yeah, right.
I am a lawyer by education and training, and I'm licensed actually in 3 states, but I have moved a lot in my lifetime, and when I ended up but I learned about the CASA program in college first, because the sorority I'm a part of, National CASA is our national philanthropy for our sorority, and I couldn't do it at the time because of the time commitment involved. And when I ended up here in the Cedar Valley, I thought, ooh, I have time to do this. My children were all in school, and I thought, I'll investigate. And so that was I think I was sworn in as a volunteer in 2011. And so I began as a volunteer, and well, here I am. So.
And Ellen, in your case?
Well, I am a social worker, and years ago I worked in the Des Moines Public Schools, and I worked with children with special needs, and I particularly had a little boy that it was real troubling when he went home and came back to school, and we could see that there was probably some abuse going on. And as I was feeling kind of frustrated when I was trying to get help for him in his situation. And then one day a CASA volunteer showed up at school, and I was like, who are you? And she explained that she was there to advocate for him, and so I was able to share with her my concerns, and she went and investigated and was able to provide a report to the judge, which ended up in providing a safer place for that little boy to live and not return home to an abusive situation. So I was like, wow, that volunteer really had a lot of power. And fast forward to years later, I moved to Waterloo, to the Cedar Valley, and there was a little advertisement in the Courier asking for volunteers, and so kind of from that little piece, I like Meg, had some time then that I could volunteer, and so that's how I got involved in the program.
So we know what you're working for and maybe a little bit toward. Who do you actually work for?
Well, in my opinion, we work for the children in the Cedar Valley and their families. We're working on their behalf. I am a state employee. I work for the state of Iowa, for the Iowa Child Advocacy Board.
Okay.
All right, which is under the umbrella of the Department of Inspection and Appeals.
Of course.
So that's how the chain of employment.
So
works.
the territory that we're looking at is what?
So the CASA program in Iowa covers all of Iowa. The Waterloo program covers, I coordinate programs in Black Hawk, Grundy, Buchanan, Bramer, and Chickasaw counties.
Okay.
I also coordinate another program under the Iowa Child Advocacy Board called Foster Care Review Board. And I have 3 boards that meet every month, and those boards cover Black Hawk, Grundy, Bramer, Butler, Franklin, Floyd, and Chickasaw counties.
Okay. You sure you have time to?
Can I just add, though, in regard to your question of who do we work for? As a volunteer, I agree with Meg. Yes, I'm working for the child, but I consider myself the eyes and ears of the judge.
Yes.
And I feel like it's very important that I provide a report to the judge that I, as a volunteer, have had access to, like school and health and home and all the environments that the child is in, and I can provide a report, because the judge can't be there, and he's getting these reports from all these different professionals, but my report, I hopefully pulls it all together for him or her and I provide a list of concerns and a list of recommendations.
Okay. In the past year, I hate to keep referring back to what was going on prior, but we were into statistics. What kind of statistics can you give me as to what your agency's looking at as far as numbers are concerned?
So I would say the reports or calls into DHS, and this is based on a conversation with DHS, went down immediately after COVID things took place. And then the age range of the children served sort of shifted from younger to older kids during the time period. But our program locally has not, in fact, we've grown. We have not lost any volunteers, or we haven't decreased in numbers. We continue to serve an average of 50 children at a time on any given month. I just was reviewing for our region that our program serves, I don't have numbers for the entire state that are current,
Okay.
but approximately 125 children in foster care in the month of May in the counties served by our program. So I have 34 volunteers. I obviously don't have enough volunteers to serve all of those kids. So our goal as a state program, I think, is to have a CASA for every child who needs one, and we're not there. But
Okay.
we do have statewide a lot of volunteers serving many children. We're just not close to reaching having a one-for-one match.
You mentioned that magic word, and no, we didn't rehearse the program. Volunteers. That's one of the purposes of this series of programs called Serving the Valley, is opportunities for volunteers. What do volunteers do?
Well, we have our most expert volunteer sitting here.
Appropriately
She
enough.
can share what she does.
Well, I would say I volunteer on an individual case probably between 10 and 15 hours a month.
Okay.
And it depends. If it's a new case, you spend more time getting to know the situation and visiting and you know, understanding what's going on. But okay, and yep, 10 to 15 hours per month.
Right on the button.
Right on the button. But every month, as a volunteer, I see face-to-face my child, and sometimes more than that, but for sure at least once a month. And you know, I always try to be really cognizant of their living situation, how they're doing in school, how is their health, just making sure that things are going as well as can be in the situation.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but is it hard to pull away from realizing, okay, this is only 15 hours, but you said there's so much more help that's needed. So what you really need are more people who are willing to do what you're doing.
Yes.
Yes, and honestly, like I have 2 cases right now, and I'm also a coach for newer volunteers because I have more experience, and I have to kind of watch that I don't overextend myself.
And in your case, you apparently aren't very busy at all, huh?
No, I have nothing. So if you volunteers for the program start with 30 hours of pre-service training.
Okay.
That takes place over the course of about 5 weeks. Might go a little bit longer, but there are 5 modules. So, and then they are sworn in by a juvenile court judge. So we are officers of the court. So when Ellen was saying that we work for the court, we work for the judge. And we are appointed by the judge. And so once a CASA is appointed to a case, their role and responsibility is to, of course, meet with the child or the group of children, because sometimes there are sibling groups, at least once in person every 30 days. In addition to that, the CASA is meeting with the parents, the foster parents, the relative placement, the teachers, the counselors, the doctors, the DHS caseworker, any other social work professionals who are providing services, really anyone who touches those children, touches their lives in any way, and gathering information to provide a full and complete picture of that child's life to the court. Court hearings occur approximately every 3 months. The CASA is expected to provide a written report in advance of every hearing that includes objective observations and facts, a list of strengths of the children and their family, a list of concerns for the children and their family, and then a list of recommendations of what the CASA believes to be in the child's best interests. And then we attend every court hearing, and then the judge reviews our submissions, and then we move on to the next hearing. And in between every court hearing, we're continuing to monitor the case.
Lots of time involved.
Yes, can be.
There's a little, I'm going to call it a cartoon, well, I guess that's kind of what it is, that helps to explain this in a little couple of minutes. And I just happen to think maybe right now you might want to see that, like this.
Every child is born with a chance to dream, to learn, to play, and a chance to feel safe. But what happens when those chances disappear? For children placed in foster care, the chaos of being removed from home and placed in a new environment with new people, court dates, social worker visits, and new schools can be traumatic and hinder a child's desire to learn, play, and even dream. How can we give these kids the help they need? How can we give them all the chances they deserve? For that, we need CASA volunteers. What is a CASA? A CASA is a court-appointed special advocate. They help kids in foster care know there's someone by their side, committed to looking out for them. A CASA is not a superhero or a legal expert. CASAs come from different backgrounds, neighborhoods, and communities, just like the kids they help. To be a CASA, you don't need any professional training in social work or the legal system. All you need is the will to help. If you decide to become a CASA volunteer, you'll be trained to work with children in foster care, navigate the legal system, and speak in court. Once you've gone through training, you're appointed by a judge to help with a child's case. As a CASA, your job is to get to know the child as well as the parents and family, foster family, and everyone else involved. Judges count on CASA volunteers to keep them updated so they can make the best possible decisions for the child's physical and emotional well-being. CASA volunteers are one constant figure for the child, but they're not the only ones. CASAs never work alone. When you become a CASA, you'll work with a CASA staff member who will advise and support you through the entire process. You'll work with caseworkers, attorneys, and others to engage committed adults who will support the child and family. These adults can include members of a child's family of origin, foster family, teachers, faith communities, coaches, and friends. Together, they create a strong support network for the child and family. This support system helps develop a plan and set goals for the child and family going forward. Ideally, the plan will involve reunification with the child's parent or parents when safe and possible. When that's not the case, you may recommend that the child live with another relative or close family friend. Other possibilities may include searching for a loving adoptive home or preparing the child for adult living on their own. Regardless of the outcome, you'll keep in contact with the support network you've helped create until the case closes, so that everyone continues to put the best interests of the child first. If this support group stays committed, the child will have strong, stable adults who they can rely on for years to come. This leads to a greater sense of safety, happiness, and stability, better performance in school, and stronger peer relationships. There are thousands of children in foster care. By becoming a CASA volunteer, you can make sure they are safe and supported. Because every child has a chance. It's you.
There you are. Pique your interest, maybe just a little bit, and you want more information than what you're going to probably get for the next several minutes, and you want to get some answers yourself. What do they do?
Well, you go to the state website, I think it's on the screen, where you can go for the Child Advocacy Board. There will be all kinds of information there on both the CASA program and the Foster Care Review Board program, because I need volunteers for that as well. You can read about them. You can, and it's very clear, the application button. You can complete your application online, and then the application will come to me through our magical database system, and I will call you to schedule an interview, and we will get started.
So in those individuals who will eventually be sitting down in front of you, what are you looking for?
Well, really the main qualification is someone who's interested in helping and working with kiddos. And you also need to have the time to commit to the job and be able to work independently and be a reasonably strong verbal and written communicator, because we do submit written reports to the court, and you will be interacting in person with a lot of people, and you need to be able to manage those conversations and interactions well.
What in the world was going on before this came about? I mean, how were these things handled?
Well, I think the CASA program itself originated in 1977 from a judge in Washington State who found himself, a juvenile court judge, who found himself sitting in front of families and needing to make difficult decisions and not having enough information, or at least he didn't think he had enough information to make really good, informed decisions. So he came up with the idea of trained community volunteers to provide that additional insight into what was happening in a case. And then, so that's how the CASA program got started. It is spread across the country. The CASA program is in 49 of 50 states, and Iowa was the 45th state to adopt the program statewide. So we've had CASA in Iowa since the mid-'80s, and we're going strong today. Prior to that, the child welfare system existed in the way that it existed. But I think that's where you hear a lot of different stories about people falling through the cracks and many foster homes, and so the CASA program was created to help.
Okay. I'm sitting here thinking, oh boy, the stories, the books, the movies that could be produced based on what you are seeing in everyday life. Can you give me an example of a case of privacy rules, of course?
Well,
Ellen, it's yours.
sure.
Go ahead.
Not once upon a time, but right now.
No, I had a case a while back that it was an immigrant family from Africa that came here to the Cedar Valley, and as you can imagine, immigrating from a foreign country here, not speaking the language, not knowing the culture, and they had a small baby, and the mother had some serious kind of mental health issues with all that transpired, and as a result, the baby wasn't being fed appropriately, and through People's Clinic and others that were concerned, the child was removed and placed in a foster home, and we were able to, he was able to get medical treatment and kind of nursed back to birth, a healthy weight and eating appropriately, and also in conjunction with this, the mother was also able to receive mental health treatment, and through social workers and assistants, she got help through Black Hawk Grundy Mental Health. She got her medications that she needed. We are also able to instruct the parents about appropriate foods and what they needed. You can imagine coming from a foreign country and trying to get the food that you're used to eating here in Waterloo,
Right.
and being able to afford it. And so there was just a lot of instruction, and the foster parents were awesome too, working with the parents in conjunction. And as a result, gradually, he was able to spend more time with his parents. They became more comfortable with his development and his eating. One of the things the CASA program was able to do was to get him a crib because he didn't have a bed. And just those little things, and making sure there was the appropriate food in the cabinets when he visited. And as time went on, the parents learned more about our culture. It was kind of fun though too. The mother invited me to her church service, so I attended a church service very different than what I'd ever attended
Right.
before. It was all in French. I didn't understand, but I could get the gist of what the lesson was. But so there's an enrichment that comes for me too in having these experiences. But this little boy was able to return home. He's happy, he's healthy, he's with his parents, and they're doing very well right now.
Meg, you're not off the hook.
Okay.
You have one?
Well, I have several. I was a volunteer for years before I became the coordinator. And there are many stories of kids. Ellen's selling herself, she didn't talk about her role very much in this process, but she was instrumental in connecting this family with resources and translation services and things in the community. And that's what our volunteers bring to the cases, are their community experience and knowledge of other services and people who can help these families with the services and things that they need in order to get their children home. I've had a couple of several cases where kids have been able to return home because parents have successfully participated in the case plan that DHS has developed, and the CASA has, whether it was me or someone else, has supported and encouraged, and children are getting maybe services they didn't have before because of the CASA through some advocacy in their school and different things. And so everyone is able to recover, improve, and be better able to live together as a family as a result of the whole team working together to find the right services and programs for these families. Sometimes it's just a matter of education
Okay.
and training.
Sometimes it's a matter of being aware in your neighborhood
Yes.
of where somebody may benefit from services that you offer.
Yes. And I would say that, most people in our community are, maybe not most, but there are a lot of people who are unaware of the way some families live and the struggles that they are experiencing. And so the CASA program is a great way to get engaged, to help children and families be stronger and move forward with their lives in ways that maybe they didn't know that they could or couldn't, and they just needed that extra
Sure.
encouragement and support. It doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes parents don't participate in the services. They aren't able to achieve what they need to achieve, and their rights are terminated, and children are adopted into other families. But our goal as CASA advocates is to find a permanent home for these kids as quickly as we can, hopefully with their family of origin, if not with a suitable adoptive family, if that's possible.
I often think in my growing up years, the front porch was dynamic in keeping neighborhoods together. And now we're all on our backyard patio.
Yes.
And it's not the same.
No.
Just isn't the same. Well, let me be frank with you as I glance at the clock, because it always is the winner here. When we roll through programs like this, my final question usually is, if we had time, I wonder why Roy didn't ask us about. What would that be, Meg?
Well, I don't know. Ellen, do you have anything that we haven't covered?
Come on, Ellen.
Well, I just wanted to add that with adoption, that can be a very rewarding experience for a
Yes.
CASA volunteer too. And some of the happiest times I've experienced as a CASA is seeing a family built around
Yes.
an adoption situation. And I've been invited, and my dog was invited as well, to an adoption party.
Good for you.
Yeah, so just it can be very, it's work and it can be emotional, but it's also very rewarding, and I think it's important work. And I would really encourage anyone that is interested to go online or give Meg a call and look into it.
Contact right there on the screen. Any questions you may have about something that we have not covered or that you'd want more detail, get a hold of Meg or Ellen for that matter. And gosh, thanks for educating Roy for the last several minutes. And for you folks out there watching, thanks for joining us for another edition as Serving the Valley continues. I'm Roy Justice.